historical context in which Czechoslovakia comes into being. And the question this immediately raises is on what basis an individual can be assigned a citizenship, like have a citizenship imposed on him or her, and or be deprived of it. What rights does a state have over an individual? If you think about it, Czechoslovakia comes into being 28th October 1918, a declaration. This is followed fairly shortly thereafter by a similar declaration on the part of the Slovaks. And then follows the question of, well, where exactly should the frontiers of this new state lie? I'm going to cut this story short because it's extremely long, but basically Czechoslovakia incorporated quite substantial territories, partly on the basis of historic rights, that's to do with Bohemia and Moravia, and partly on the basis of strategic necessity, that's the so-called Danube frontier, and partly also, if you like, on straightforward ethno-national balance, that's to say it's going to be a state of Czechs and Slovaks. It seems to me that these three different grounds are actually contradictory. That if you claim one bit of a territory on historic grounds, I think it's a little difficult to claim that the historic grounds don't apply in another part of the territory. What I have in mind is that on historic grounds, Hungary, defeated country in 1918, could reasonably have said, on historic grounds, Slovakia is still a part of Hungary. Whether we accept this today or not is another matter, but we're simply trying to present the contradiction in the Czechoslovak position. Now, we also know that during and in the aftermath of the war, logic is sometimes cast to the winds. Logic doesn't necessarily play a significant role, power does. And I think this is actually what we have to look at, the power which the Czechoslovak leadership, I'm thinking especially of Masaryk and Beneš and others, were able to exercise via their allies in France. The Treaty of Trianon in 1920 puts the seal on this, and what follows from this is that a significant number of Germans and Hungarians end up as Czechoslovak citizens who are incorporated into this state together with the territory in which they live without their ever actually having consented or let alone requested that they be citizens of Czechoslovakia. Now I'm going to say something which makes me very unpopular, but I've said it before and I'll say it again, namely that interwar Czechoslovakia was in many ways a decent country, that's to say there was rule of law, but it wasn't actually a democracy. It was a kind of ethnic democracy at best. This is a technical term which means that some ethnic groups fare much better than others. I think that clearly defines interwar Czechoslovakia. If you were a Czech, then you really did enjoy full civic rights. If you were a non-Czech, you might. Just depends. It was a bit more arbitrary. And without going into the great long problem of the relationship between Czechs and Germans, to some degree that's to one side of my argument, the basic problem is that from the outset, the Czechoslovak citizenship concept was based on this contradiction that we can incorporate people into Czechoslovakia, give them Czechoslovak citizenship without their wanting it, without their in any way requesting it. And I think that the Czechoslovak citizenship concept never faced up to this dilemma, never faced up to the proposition that I'm making, that there's a contradiction there. If we think that citizenship and democracy are about consent and are about the proposition that the individual citizen has certain rights vis-à-vis the state. It seems to me that the legacy of this original 1918, 1920 citizenship concept, the one which I'm sketching, which I think is actually inadequate by contemporary criteria, to some degree continued to affect and still plays a role in the Czech and Slovak citizenship concepts. Obviously from 1993 we're looking at two different states. But the basic set of assumptions with which the Czechoslovak state came into being to some degree live on. And to this very day, they continue to live on. I'm referring here as part of, if you like, the founding narrative of the Czechoslovak state. Now, given the conditions in which Czechoslovakia was founded and came into being, I think the Czech elite knew perfectly well what they were doing, that they wanted this territory, which is really a little overlarge, for those roughly 6 million Czechs to run. Hence they incorporate not quite 3 million Slovaks and say, Czechs and Slovaks are really the same. Slovaks didn't like this in the interwar period. There was indeed an ideology of Czechoslovakia that basically they speak the same language in two different dialects, and somehow one dialect, the Czech dialect, turns out to be, shall we say, more dominant than the Slovak dialect. The Slovaks don't like this. They then have their own dilemma, which is, if it's not Czechoslovakia, then what is it? Eventually, much later, this becomes the independent, wartime independent Slovak state, and then the post-1993 state. What I'm arguing here is that because of this foundational problem, both Czech and Slovak concepts of citizenship are to some degree still ethnicized, to perhaps a greater degree that I think is compatible with the rules of democracy as we understand them today. And possibly, in parentheses, I would add here that the definitions of democracy are not static, they change over time. They're much stricter now than they were, let's say, in 1950. That's a separate story. So, to some degree, the goalposts shift in this respect. Now, under communism, this citizenship concept, or I'm calling this flawed citizenship concept, didn't matter. But it does start to matter after 1989, when Czechoslovakia, what's the right word, performs its Velvet Revolution. Some of you will remember the events. There are lots of pictures of it. Wenceslas Square is full of people, and so on. But the problem still remains. What do you do with the origins, the foundation of the state in 1918, and then the refoundation in 1945? It wasn't strictly a refoundation. I think it was in political terms. In legal terms, it wasn't, because the Czechs insisted, as in the Western Allies accepted, the legal continuity. In a sense, saying Munich didn't happen, the breakup of Czechoslovakia. You can say it's a legal fiction, because I think in real terms it really did happen, but that's something else again. But then you have the legal continuity of the interwar Czechoslovak state signed and sealed after 1945, and this contradiction, this set of contradictions really between ethnicity and citizenship, between the power of the state and the power of the individual, the rights of the individual, between arbitrary power and legality, between the imposition of collective guilt by fiat, by executive order, and the establishing of individual guilt by legal process, they